This is my wife Allison. She is joining with me today. We're going to be doing something here with you guys. We're going to have the video up, and we're also going to have it where you can just go listen to the podcast if you want. So today we're going to be basically starting off our series talking about, relationships, what it was like before us, what we're going to start off with today. Then we're going to go through the whole talking stage, relationships, and we're eventually going to get into being married and looking at the future, what's coming up later on in life. But today we're going to be starting out with a segment called Before Us, and we got a few things that we wanted to talk about here today because you particularly work with younger girls and teaching dance and things like that, and I see younger guys come around my place of work, and they of course are starting their life, and every once in a while somebody will talk about relationships and things. So you always constantly hear about this stuff, and always hear about problems and things, and people trying to sort stuff out and trying to figure out. I've had people ask me, what is really a secret formula that you and I use, because they look at us and assume that me and you would be some perfect couple. And the reality of it is that there is no such thing as a perfect couple. You have ups and you have downs, and I'm going to let you kind of take that away before we even get started.
I mean, we've been married, I don't even know exactly how many months now, but not very long, not even a year, to put that in perspective. But I've listened to, you just hear a lot of people talking about relationships and how they handle them and what do they think. And like you said, people think there's like some secret code, or, people say happy wife, happy life, like just stuff like that. But I've said this really as soon as we got married. Like, marriage is actually, the concept of it is very simple, which we've talked about that topic before vaguely a little bit. But it's very simple. But the where it gets complicated is you just have to choose someone before yourself. But before that, getting like kind of into our first topic, I guess, you gotta have yourself established a little bit, and that's the tricky part. Knowing who you are before you can get to know someone else.
And that's really the first point where we're going to start off here is this segment. This segment is called Before Us because that's where it started. We didn't just pop out of thin air together as a couple. There was a whole life before her, and there was a whole life before me. There was a life where it was just her and her parents and her brother, and it was me and my parents and my siblings. And you've got years and years of learning, of going through heartbreak, of going through things you don't understand, and eventually it gets you to this point. And we're going to talk about a few of those things today. So the first thing is dating myself. Now, I know that might sound kind of silly, but if you honestly stop and think about it, when you date somebody else, you're trying to figure out who this person is. You're looking to see if there's any potential in this person. You're looking to see, are there any quirks? Is there any red flags? Is there anything that's just a little too much for you to take something further? And you learn this stuff slowly as you go. And next thing you know, you've been dating for a little while. Then you finally come to the conclusion, yeah, I think this is going to work. I think this is who I want to be with for the rest of my life. So you take it to the next level and you eventually get married. And a lot of people don't take enough time when they're alone to date themselves, figure out who they are, because they're so busy trying to date and find someone else. And this can string into a whole lot of problems that I see. People, and I fell a victim to this a lot whenever I was in high school, trying your best to fit in and do whatever it takes to be just accepted because of peer pressure, because of just not even trying to be popular, just like I said, just trying to be accepted. And you have to remain true to who you are. You are who you are. You have your people, your family, you have what you come from, and just like the other person is the same way with them. If something doesn't work out, it's okay. You'll eventually see why later on in life, why things didn't happen the way that they did, even though you may not understand it now. So dating myself, what would you have to say about is so important about a person taking the time to really find who they are before they worry about trying to find someone else?
Well, the other day I was having a whole conversation with myself, as I normally do, but I think my perspective on dating was always different growing up and getting to know yourself and all that fun stuff because, like you talked about high school. High school is a very impressionable time on teenagers I didn't go to public school. So, I mean, I knew people my age, and I had friends that went to public school, and I've grown up in a dance studio. So, like, I was around people my age, and I'm very talkative, friendly, always into something with somebody. So, it's not like I just stayed inside because people stereotype homeschooling. But my perspective on it, I feel like is kind of backwards than everyone else's. It was easier for me to date myself in a sense because I wasn't really worried about other people, but I've always been a little bit off track with my thinking, I guess. Not necessarily off track, but not like everybody else. So to me, getting to know myself was like a weird thing that probably, I don't know, I feel like I started doing that by the time I was around 14 or 15. Probably around whenever I didn't think boys were gross anymore. I was like, But I've always had the perspective of, I have something to offer to someone. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I never had low points or whatever, but I guess because I had spent so much time, like, socially in a different situation than typical high schoolers, I was like, I don't want to settle for, like, whatever, if that makes sense. But I think what I was exposed to while I was a teenager was a different situation than typical, if that makes sense. So dating myself, it was harder probably when I got older and you get into everyday adult life, if you will. But from the beginning, I've always kind of been like in my head had a list of he's got to have this and be this way or whatever. And I feel like that's kind of off track. Like when we talk about this topic, I think you probably have a better outlook on it than I do.
Here's the thing. You got your girls, you got your boys. Guys, there is a standard to being one day the man of the house. Your dad was that, your grandfather was that, whoever your male role model was in your life, that's their role. And you got a lot of kids today, unfortunately, that never saw that role. And that's the truth, that's the reality of it. I know we don't like to really point that stuff out, but there are a lot of kids who never had that shining example that me and her were both fortunate enough to grow up with. And your mom may have had to try to play both roles. And that's hard because it was always designed for that purpose, that there should be a man of the house, there should be a woman of the house. And when one person tries to take on both those roles, I'm not saying that there aren't some out there that don't do a good job with it. I think that there are a lot of good women, a lot of good moms out there who do turn out really good children, who despite everything that was ever thrown at them, God bless them. I mean, just to be completely honest with you. But there's always still that factor of looking to a example of what a male role model is. And it's not just for the boys, it's for the girls too. You got to know how a man is supposed to treat you. You got to. You are going to be the woman of the house one day. That in no way implies that women are lesser than men are, because I don't look at my wife and assume that any day she pulls just as much weight as I do, and some days she pulls even more than I do. But the job, the way it always was supposed to be set up, is that there was supposed to be one partner who provided for the family, who spent the most time away from home, the most time away from the family, to make sure that a roof was over the head, food was on the table, and the other partner, most likely, most occasions, the mom, was supposed to be the one that was there more often for the kids, for the household, for the structure, for the learning, for the nourishment, for the, there being a home. And my heart bleeds for anybody that didn't grow up with that. And I count my blessings every day that I was fortunate enough to experience that. And I know you feel the same way. But girls, you got to know your worth when looking at a guy. You don't owe any guy anything in high school. I'm sorry, that's just the way. I don't care how cute they are, I don't care their position on the football team or whatever, how many other girls like them. You don't owe nobody nothing. And it will actually surprise you. Some people don't really grow up that much after high school. Some people kind of stay in that area, but most people that I know, they change so much between the age of 18 and 22. It will amaze you how much they change through what they go through, what they experience, through their jobs, through their entering into the real world, as we say. You change. Your perspective changes. Your dreams and goals change. Your life throws you curveballs. Your reality changes. Everything around you.
That's the first time you get exposed to actual real life. Because I remember the time between me being like 18 to 20 was probably the weirdest years of my life. And I'm not saying that you can't find somebody in high school and be high school sweethearts. I actually know people that have dated in high school and got married. But, like, you know, I'll look at some of the girls I know or just other people. You see things and I'm like, why is so-and-so so heartbroken over this guy that, you know, not to minimize someone's relationship, but it's like you said, you know, they're not even like into real life yet, that was always easy for me. I literally remember being in high school and being like, why are these girls like broken up with people every other day? Even some of my friends, my guy friends, girlfriends, it goes both ways of being like, you know, they're together and then they're not together and then this and that. And I'm like, you don't even really know who you are at that point. And I don't want to say you don't have anything to offer, but to an extent, I'm like, my perspective was just always, when I wasn't going to get in a relationship, I was going to look for something permanent. Why would I be looking for something permanent when I was 17? Everybody doesn't have that perspective, and I don't think that my perspective is the only way, you know, but I guess for me, that's why stuff like that never made sense.
And that goes for kids too, you know, not everybody has kids or wants to have kids at the age of 20 or 23 or 25. It depends on the person's circumstance, their environment, where they're at in life. How many times have me and you had people ask us when we're going to have kids? And, you know, nobody's ever prepared for parenthood, so I don't want anybody to think that I'm suggesting that we are going to make sure we're 100% prepared. Because I don't care who you are, what job you have, what's going on, you're never prepared for that. But me and you do understand who we are, where we're at right now, and we do want to make sure we have things as possibly established as they can possibly be before we do that step. You know?
And then honestly, you know, onto that, not to get off on another thing, but I just feel like there's so many things that we want to do first. Mm-hmm. For me, it's not so much about having things planned out or whatever, but there's just like, honestly, first thing that comes to mind for me is like trips. There's things that we want to do and places we want to go. But I mean, it's to a certain extent, like you said, you're never really prepared for that.
And it will surprise you young ladies, and you guys too, just who will walk into your life. Because that's essentially what you did. You walked into my life. We did not go to school together, did not know each other when I graduated.
I didn't know you until I was what?
That was 2013, a whole year after I graduated. Whenever we first actually met, and even after we met.
We met and had no contact for
at least 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And I always look at that as that it just wasn't the time. You know, it'll amaze you.
I would not have known what to do with you.
It would amaze you. It would amaze you just how sometimes you're presented stuff, you're a glimpse into your future, and you don't even realize that's what it's going to be one day. You could be walking into a store that's going to potentially one day be your career, and you'll never know it until that moment happens. It's almost with anything in life. But I see so many people, and I had this before. I've had my heartbreaks. I've had my moments, you know, with different people. But people getting tore up literally from the floor up from rejection. It just beats them down. And like you said, this 2-week dating, 3-week, 1 month, 2-3 months dating, 1 year, and their whole world is completely gone and destroyed from rejection. Rejection's not always, by the way, being told no up front. It's sometimes something happens in a relationship that you have no control over, even though that you want to have control in it. And that's going to kind of lead into our next point here, is talking about the experience of rejection and appreciation. I want you to lead off with this one because I'm going to come behind you on this with my personal story.
I mean, I think that, like, going back to when we met, as much as I was like, ooh, I want to date him or whatever at that point in time, there's no way we would have been successful, because things that I went through after you and I met are the things that made me ready for you. Mm-hmm. And, you know, not getting into like too much detail, but
And that
it
was the
was
same thing here.
it was other people. It was like being with other guys, talking to this guy, that guy, whatever, making mistakes and being like, okay, now that I did that, that's not what I want. I don't want to look for that in a person. I feel like most of the time people in relationships are like funny to talk about past relationships or whatever, but I'm like, I always want to talk about that with him. Not like obsessively, but just to the point, maybe I want to make him aware of something or like vice versa.
Me and you are comfortable with each other.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm like. I mean it in like an appreciative way for me to be like, okay, I was ready for you because this happened to me. And probably one of the biggest things that I've learned during that period of time, like of making mistakes, if you will, is I learned like communication is a big must for me. I feel like that's a word that constantly comes up with relationships, but if you can't communicate with me and I can't communicate with you, I can't do it. And going through not so great experiences with that made me more ready. And I feel like we work on communication every day because it's really hard to communicate constantly, like after a long day, or if you're aggravated, or if you're on my nerves, or whichever, vice versa. It goes both ways. But after that, I think this is going to be one that sets you off a little bit. But learning a work ethic of someone, and I don't mean that in the sense of I need somebody to make a lot of money. I just mean it in the sense of knowing whoever I'm investing in is gonna have enough work ethic to invest back in me, and not just give up when something gets hard or whatever way. That goes relationship, financially, all of the ways. Those are probably the two biggest things that I've learned. And now that we are where we are, I really appreciate where we're at in our relationship. We're very open. I don't feel like either one of us is embarrassed to ask for help in any topic. And I know for me, it's because of what I went through before you that my eyes are really open to where we are and what we have.
I talk about this a lot when I do my TikTok videos and whatnot, because I feel like it's one of the main things that I know and I can personally relate to people is rejection. Because I had girls that went behind my back and told everybody they didn't like me because I was still living at home with mom and dad at the age of 20, 21, 22, 23, all the way up till I was 24. We did not build this house until I was 24, after me and you had been dating for almost a year and a half at that point. And for a while, I felt like a failure. Here I am still living at home with mom and dad. I didn't go after my dream that I wanted to go after because I was trying to please everybody else. And I don't look back on that and regret anything that I did, because, like I said, things happen for a reason. There's a reason and a place, a reason why you made it to where you're at today. Nothing that you've ever gone through is a waste of time. You can't live your life thinking like that. The people that you dated were not a waste of time. They taught you something. You learn, you build from it, because if you are sent the right person too early, you are going to screw up, and you're going to look back the rest of your life wondering, what did I do? Because I had something perfect and I let it go over small stuff that I should have learned from other people in other times of my life. So nothing you're going through is ever not a waste of time. But I was sitting there, no girlfriend, nobody to go hang out and do stuff with, because either I didn't like the people or they didn't like me. It's just plain cut how it was. They wanted something out of me that I couldn't give, and I wanted something out of them that they couldn't give. That's how it was. And living at home, mom and dad, job that I particularly grew to not really care about anymore. And I eventually, our other camera cut off, so I guess that's going to be the end of it. You wouldn't mind hitting that record button, huh? Just a little editing moment. But yeah, rejection's hard. Rejection, it hurts. I can't sit here and pretend like it didn't hurt. It did. You feel devastated because the first thing you start asking yourself is, what's wrong with me? You know, that there's obviously a reason why that person didn't want to be with me, and I wanted it to work out so much. But if I could go back now, knowing what I have now with my wife, with the life that I live, where I'm working, I honestly would have just floated through life. Hey, look, this is all going to work out. This is going to be fine. But you don't get that. You don't get to see where you're going to be one day. You don't get a glimpse of that. You have to stumble into it and eventually find out for yourself. So you have to walk around for a while with this feeling of failure and, you know, who am I? What am I going to do? This is confusing. I'm hurt. And I kept going. I kept pushing forward. I kept saying, you know, this isn't me to feel like this. I've got to make a change in my life. So I changed my career. I fell into something I knew nothing about with people I didn't know, in a job, a career that I didn't know nothing about. And I applied myself. You know, it wasn't just, if I do this, I'm going to get a gold star. This is, if you're going to do something with your life, you got to take this road. It's a hard road. It's not an easy road, but this can lead to something good. And ever since then, I've made more money. I was able to build this house. I met you. Ever since you've known me, since we've been dating, I've been working where I work now, that I love. And everything has just worked out fine. But from the rejection that I faced over the years and through all the heartbreak and all this other kiddie stuff, I have grown an appreciation for what I have now. There's no way that I could have appreciated her if me and her would have got together when I first met her back in 2013, because there was still almost 4 years of learning that I had to do. There was 4 years of building, letting go, and moving on with my life. And that goes back to what I was talking about earlier. I have become the man of the house. And one of the many things that I was taught from my daddy and his daddy and generations before is that the man of the house will put himself last. You will go to work when they don't have to. You will provide when they don't have to. And I have grown to become this person that I'll do whatever it takes to make her happy. Even if sometimes I don't necessarily particularly care about it. That's not saying that she forces me to do stuff that I don't want to do, but sometimes that's just marriage. Marriage is not an easy walk in the park. It's not. I mean, I know we ain't been married that long a time, but me and her kind of had
not rocket science.
Me and her didn't take this long to figure this stuff out, and we wasn't even married yet. And that's one thing about us. We've kind of had this marriage relationship from the get-go, if that makes any kind of sense. Me and her were talking about serious issues and serious stuff. When I was getting ready to build this house, she went with me to pick out the designs because I had in my mind at the time, I'm not playing no games with you. This is the big leagues. This is the world here. I want to take this on with you, and I want you to share this house with me one day. So come with me and help me pick out, because this is where you're going to live. I want you to be happy with it as well.
And I feel like that is the very thing that, like, a lot of girls or even guys anticipate looking for. Like, man, I just hope I can find this person that's going to be so serious about me. And I feel like it really naturally happened. I don't think that we forced that at all, but by the time we had both went through what we went through before each other, and we both came around it together, both of us were kind of in the same place wanting the same things. Like, I don't want to move in and get an apartment with my boyfriend. Like, not that we were super eager to get married. I mean, we didn't date for as long as I mentally had thought before. You know, I'm like, man, I'm going to date somebody for like 5 years. I'm going to be married by the time I'm 22. And I wasn't super off point on that, but we got married when I was 24, technically, right before my birthday. We dated not for 5 years, you know, like, just, it's funny how life happens. But again, from the things that both of us had previously went through, I feel like we've both used them positively, and I don't want to say it in a smart way, but in a smart way. By the time we both got together, we're like looking around at each other like, okay, now what? Like, the decisions that were coming up were, like you were saying, big decisions that we knew that we wanted to make together. But I'm like, then my mind goes back to like 14-year-old me being like, hoping so bad that I would find that in somebody. And I mean, it happened. I kind of say that in like a hopeful way. We really were not, it literally just happened. It fell in my lap.
What would you say would help somebody with appreciation, looking at themselves?
Like their worth. Is that what you mean?
Well, I know for me personally, my thing is trying to remain humble because I have to realize that, yeah, what I make pays the house note, it pays her car note, and just various different bills and stuff, whatever. However, she pays for the groceries. She pays to put her own gas in that car. She pays to keep it maintained and taken care of. She keeps this a home. She pays the water bill and things like that. If I took on all this by myself, I'd be flat broke. We just put a generator on the side of the house. I would not have been able to do that. And it's remaining humble knowing that this is a team thing. This is not an I thing. It's not I'm tackling the world anymore. It's we are tackling the world now. And you're living in a world today where that is less common, where it's more about me, mine, when can I get it, how fast can I get it, how do I get there, instead of trying to build and cooperate with someone else, saying that this is a tough world, it's reality, life is going to throw stuff at you that you do not see coming out of nowhere. Your parents went through that, my parents went through that, we have both witnessed that from all sides, and we know that it's coming for us. And there's going to be times when you have to cry on each other's shoulders. Either she's crying on mine or I'm crying on hers. We both can cry together. It's not always laughing and happy. And I'm telling you guys, especially young kids listening to this, you probably don't have a clue what I'm talking about because you're obviously not going to have experience in it, but you've got to be able to witness potential in somebody. You've got to be able to see a future with them. Like, what does this person bring to the table? And if they cannot get their act together, I'm going to find something else, or I'm going to work on myself even more until they get their act right, or I'll stumble upon somebody that does. Because, like I said, it's a tough world, and you've got to be in it together. Me and her are in it together. And that kind of is going to lead to our last one here, before I ramble too much into that. The good one is out there. They are. I know some people try to twist this thing today that they say, not everybody has a special somebody, whatever. I think you do. Because look at me. Honestly, as goofy as I am, the things that I've done, the things I've said, the way I've acted before in my life or whatever, and yet they were still somebody that I did not have to even try or work hard enough to get in my life to actually be married and share this life with. There's hope for me. There's hope for you. I'm just going to be completely honest with you. And in this moment of regret, feeling sorry for yourself and wondering if that's ever going to happen, you need to take a step back and realize once again, like we said earlier, what you bring to the world. Now, it's up to you to apply that and let it shine and glow in it so other people can witness that and draw attention to yourself. But yeah, there is a hidden lockdown potential to you. You probably need to straighten up your act. You probably need to lose the attitude. You probably need to focus on your grades. You need to figure out what you like, what you're going to do, and realize that you are somebody. And if somebody wants to be with you, well, they're going to have to be a somebody too, if you catch what I'm saying.
I think the secret to that, we both say the same thing and it both comes out in the end, but stuff like this, I would like to think that we're fun to listen to because you're one end of the spectrum and I'm the other. To an extent, I'm straight and narrow too, but you're like, you have to do X, Y, and Z. You can't be this way, whatever. I'm more like it fell into place for me when I truly, I don't want to say just focused on myself, but not going back to like what we were previously talking about, but I found myself, I had made sure I had good friends to be around. I had hobbies. I just knew myself, and I feel like that showed. I don't know.
You got plans.
And I don't know what the first exact thing that you noticed about me that you were like, I like that about that girl. But I can guarantee whatever it was, I almost am positive, no matter what you say, it could come from me knowing myself first. So that shined out. I don't think it's as hard as sometimes people think it is. Do you have to clean up your act or whatever? Yeah, to an extent, not to contradict what you say, but I'm a different personality type and you got to keep that in mind. But to me, like when I found myself, that's when I found him. I wasn't even really looking. I mean, part of me jokes around because I would tell my friends after I met him, I'm like, we're going to date. And it didn't happen for a hot minute. But when it did, we were like full speed ahead. It was, I don't want to say smooth sailing, but after we had figured out kind of our groundwork of we both wanted the same thing, it was really easy. And I remember dating and being like, is this like the kind of person that I've always thought was going to come around? And I mean, obviously it was, as we sit here married in our house that we built, but it's not as complicated as people make it seem.
You know what honestly drew me to you? Not trying to cut you off, but you weren't mean to me. I can't tell you how many people, girls I knew and talking to, and that were just honestly mean. They were nice and cool, you first meet them, whatever, but after, not even that long, a week or two, whatever, you see this completely different side to them, that they just freak out about anything, and they always got some chip on their shoulder, mad about something, or they're talking about some other guy right in front of you about something, and it was always a roller coaster train wreck.
I feel like girls do that, and this is just from my experience. I don't know, and there may be other girls, I'm not speaking for everybody, but I feel like girls do that to see like how much control they can get over you. You know what I mean? We literally had a conversation about this yesterday about someone that I really didn't date, that I hung out with probably maybe 2 or 3 times. Like, it wasn't a lot, but I was telling him, I'm like, he was mean to me. He was just mean to me. So I was like, I don't want to do this. And I even, we had a full-blown conversation. I was like, he was a cool guy. I liked his job. I liked his hobbies, whatever. But he was mean to me. So I was like, this isn't for me. I'm going to take myself and go because I'm worth a whole lot more than that.
And guys, this doesn't have to just go for relationships. This can be for your career as well. I'm telling you 3 things that will help you go the furthest in life. Number 1, a good work ethic. I'm sorry, I don't care how lazy you are, I don't care how much you don't like to do stuff or whatever. The simplest things around the house, your parents just telling you to pick up your clothes or take trash out, that has to be back of the mind stuff for real life. Like me, I have to take trash out whenever we get through doing this. That's not something I'm going to get patted on the back for, get a gold star, or even get paid for. It has to be done here at the house. And if I don't catch on to it, then she has to do it. It's his job or her job. We live here. We don't want to smell stinky trash in the house. Take the trash out.
Fair enough.
Work ethic will take you a long way. In this day and age, just showing up to work, being reliable, that goes a long way, and people are paying attention. Number 2, just having literally a quarter of a personality. And this is coming from somebody who was once shy and had to break out of that shell. And I did it. I said, if I'm going to get anywhere with anybody and I'm going to be any kind of people person talking to me, I got to have some type of personality. If I just sit here just rambling off facts and there was nothing else to me, well, this would get boring real quick. So have any type of personality. Be willing to take, verbal abuse from somebody else, knowing that you can't say stuff back all the time, because that's just the professional world. That's how things work. You're going to get told stuff you don't like. You're going to get constructive criticism. And sometimes you're going to have to eventually deal with a Karen or a Paul. I guess a Paul or a Mike is the equivalent to Karen. I don't know what the Karen equivalent of male is. But,
I don't know. It's just all Karen to me.
But, you're going to have to deal with that stuff in life. And then the third thing is that there has to be loyalty. There has got to be a loyalty to it. If there's anything that me and her owe to each other, is loyalty, respect. She doesn't owe me any money. She doesn't owe me, this and that, whatever. But she deserves respect out of me. She deserves loyalty out of me, because that's one of the things that you sign up for whenever you stand under that altar and you say your vows and all this stuff and get married and slide the ring on the finger, is that is what they are entitled to from that moment on. If it's a good day, bad day, sick, happy, all this stuff. I mean, that's why you say that. That's why the preacher announces that. That's what you're committing to. Commitment, being loyal and happy. So understand those things, and I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this up here today. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add on any of these points?
Not really. I mean, that's pretty much it. It's just I am intrigued talking about relationships and listening to other people and whatever. I don't know, for whatever reason, it just interests me, because I think it's neat that kind of every relationship is different and different things work for different people. But at the end of the day, you know, it's comes back to the same common factors of you have to have A, B, and C for it to work. And I think if I could maybe tell my younger self something, like I would tell myself to probably chill out on whatever I'm looking for. Because now I spent, you know, that time I had friends and I hung out with friends, but during the time that I was like wanting a boyfriend so bad or whatever, all I had was my friends. And now that we are married, friends are totally different. You know, I text them a couple days a week, but it's really hard to meet up with people and hang out and whatever because we're at work Monday through Friday. Sometimes we work on the weekends. You have, you know, life. You don't need to know my schedule, but I would say focus more on my friends and keeping my mindset that, you know, when we get here one day, our relationship now is 50-50. Everything is even. And so how do I want to grow myself and what are the qualities that I want to look for expecting that? Because like how you were talking about who pays for bills and whatever, I don't have any kind of insecurity behind what he pays for because not in like a conceited way, but this is kind of what he was saying. There are things that I do that he has no idea that I even do that are necessary in our house that I'm like, I guess you could do it if I explained to you where, when, what, why, and how. But, you know, that goes back to though, I know my worth in our relationship and I know his worth as well. That's why I say it's 50-50 and that's why I think it works. But,
yeah, you can't get guys. You can't get hung up in this. Who does more and who does less? You
it's
cannot.
Not a contest, and I do not care to be competing anyway.
I am in a competition with life. Me and her both are. We're not in a competition with each other. If me and her start competing against each other, then it's not a team anymore. You know, teams don't compete against each other. They compete against a different team. And really, guys, that's the main thing. Like she said. If we could go back and look at ourselves, knowing what we know now, we had told ourselves to chill out. It's going to be all right. Stop crying. Stop worrying about it. Everything's going to be all right. Pick yourself up. You fixing to have to make some changes and some moves or whatever, but that's life. Things happen. And there is somebody in you that's 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, that is trying their best to reach back at you right now and tell you that. It's going to be okay. Yeah, you've got some up and downs coming. You've been dealing with that your whole life up to now. That should be no secret to you guys. You're going to be all right. You're going to be okay. You need to date yourself. Find out who you are. Quit trying to figure out who everybody else is. Learn who you are first. You need to enjoy the experience. You need to, as crazy as this sounds, try to take in something from the rejection and realize the building blocks and how that's going to help you appreciate something one day. This whole toxicity thing, being toxic and all this stuff, that doesn't apply. That's nowhere near this house. It's never going to exist. We ain't like that. We had stuff in the past. It's the past. We move on. We're happy and we're appreciative for each other now. And that's how it's going to be from here on out. You cannot carry toxicity with you because it's poison. And then the last thing is you just got to remember the good ones out there. Don't know when you're going to meet them. I can't tell you that. Don't know how you're going to meet, but they're out there and you guys need to hang on in there.
I know we're wrapping this up, but just saying also, because I feel like we'll have people that listen to this that are already married, already are established in a relationship. I still feel like this could be a good reminder because to say it quite plainly, adults are the people that forget the simplest things the most because you get wrapped up in so many things. And do I think that we could teach like a 60-year-old, I don't want to say 60-year-old, I mean like married for 60 years, couple of the ropes of marriage? I don't know, probably not necessarily, but I do think like within all of our simple points there are things that are reminders for them that this is not that simple, you know, or it is simple, but in the end of it, I just wanted somebody to enjoy life with. Mm-hmm. That's all that it comes down to.
And that's what it was for me.
And so I'm like, you know, we could sit here and debate relationships and tell young people this and older people that or whatever, but my mindset always goes back to that. I literally just wanted someone to enjoy life with, and that's it.
Want to thank everybody for tuning in today. We love you guys as always. Thank you guys so much for watching the video today. And be sure, as always, you can go listen to us on our podcast on Spreaker, Spotify, iTunes. And we'll be seeing you guys in the next episode. Like I said, this is a series, so we will be continuing this conversation. And I know this one here was for a lot of the younger audience, the younger kids, but we have points that are leading up to where we're at now and looking at the future. So if you're married and you've got all this stuff established that we talked about today, stick around because we're going to be talking about that stuff coming up later. We love y'all. See y'all in the next episode. Today's episode has been brought to you by Avonia's Bonja Wonjas. Don't feel completely satisfied with your current Wonjas? Not to worry, Avonia's Bonja Wonjas are just what you've been looking for. They're Bonja and they're Wonja. Don't you want Avonja Bonja Wonjas? I bet you do. They're clinically proven by unlicensed officials to relieve stress, joint pain, radical impulse spies, and can even be cooked in 3 minutes or less. They're 100% effective 10% of the time. Avonia's Bonja Wonjas. Get yours today.